The Rise and Fall of Ancient Egypt, Secrets of the Nile's Greatest Civilization. Imagine a civilization so enduring, so magnificent, that its legacy continues to awe the world thousands of years later. A realm where golden crowns shimmered under the desert sun, where temples pierced the skies, and where rulers were not just kings, but living gods. This was ancient Egypt. Nestled along the lifeline of northeast Africa, Egypt flourished in the cradle of one of Earth's longest and most legendary rivers, the Nile. A river so powerful, it gave birth to one of history's most iconic civilizations. The gift of the Nile. To understand Egypt's rise, we must begin with its heart, the Nile. Stretching over 4,000 miles, the Nile isn't just a river, it's a miracle. Every year, its predictable flooding brought nutrient-rich silt to the arid desert, transforming it into fertile farmland. In a world of sand and heat, the Nile was life itself. Thanks to this natural blessing, early Egyptians cultivated wheat, barley, flax, and papyrus. Communities flourished along the riverbanks, growing from scattered villages into thriving cities like Memphis, Thebes, and Heliopolis. The Nile didn't just nurture the land, it connected people. It served as an ancient highway, encouraging trade, communication, and cultural exchange. It wasn't just a river. It was the thread that wove together an entire civilization. Around 3100 BC, a seismic shift occurred, the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt under one leader, Narmer, also known as Menes. This marked the dawn of the early dynastic period. Egypt was no longer a patchwork of tribes, it was a centralized kingdom ruled by a pharaoh, a god in human form. Pharaohs weren't just political figures. They were divine mediators between the gods and mortals. Their word was law, their rule eternal. With the rise of the pharaoh came a new level of organization, power, and architectural ambition. One of the first signs of this ambition? The step pyramid of Djoser, designed by the brilliant architect Imhotep. More than a tomb, it was a symbol of eternal life and divine power, constructed with precision, coordination, and vision. The Golden Age, Age of the Pyramids. The Old Kingdom, often called the Age of the Pyramids, witnessed feats of engineering that remain unmatched to this day. The crown jewel? The Great Pyramid of Giza, built around 2580 BC for Pharaoh Khufu. Rising to 481 feet, it was the tallest man-made structure in the world for nearly 4,000 years. How did a civilization without steel tools or wheels construct such a marvel? That mystery only deepens our fascination. The precision, the alignment with celestial bodies, and the scale of the workforce speak to a society both advanced and deeply spiritual. But the pyramids were more than stone monuments, they were portals to eternity. Egyptians believed in an afterlife so vivid and important that entire lifetimes were spent preparing for it. From the sacred rituals of mummification to the elaborate tomb paintings depicting daily life, every detail was meant to ensure a soul's journey to paradise. Religion in Egypt was woven into every thread of daily life. Egyptians were polytheistic, worshipping gods like Ra, the sun god, Osiris, ruler of the afterlife, Isis, the goddess of healing, and Anubis, guardian of the dead. Temples were not just places of worship, they were centers of power, economy, and science. In medicine, they performed surgeries and developed treatments for wounds, diseases, and even mental health. Their medical texts described conditions with surprising accuracy. In mathematics, they calculated angles and volumes that allowed them to build monuments that still stand today. Their 365-day calendar was remarkably accurate, essential for planning crops around the Nile's flooding. Art and writing also flourished. Hieroglyphics, their system of pictographic writing, recorded everything from trade agreements to prayers. Paintings and sculptures didn't just decorate, they conveyed spiritual meaning, ensuring that the deceased were honored and remembered in the afterlife. Egypt wasn't just powerful, it was wise. For centuries, Egypt stood as a beacon of stability and grandeur. But even the greatest empires are vulnerable to time. Internal power struggles, weak pharaohs, economic strain, and overambitious building projects began to crack the once mighty foundation. As centralized control waned, the kingdom fractured. Rival nobles fought for power. Droughts and crop failures, combined with a declining economy, led to unrest. Invasions by foreign powers, including the Hyksos, Nubians, Assyrians, Persians, Greeks, and eventually the Romans, further eroded Egypt's sovereignty. By the time Cleopatra VII, the last pharaoh of Egypt, died in 30 BC, the sun had set on nearly 3,000 years of greatness. Though the empire fell, its legacy endures. The achievements of ancient Egypt still spark awe and wonder. Its knowledge influenced Greek and Roman thought. Its monuments continue to attract millions. Its spirit echoes in every museum and history book. What can we learn from their rise and fall? That even the most brilliant civilizations are not immune to time. That unity, vision, and belief can build wonders, but that complacency, division, and external threats can dismantle even the greatest societies. Ancient Egypt was more than a civilization, it was a miracle of the human spirit. A kingdom born from the mud of the Nile, rising with wisdom and wonder, and eventually fading into legend. Yet even now, its pyramids still stand. Its stories still inspire. And its message still resonates. Greatness is not just in how we rise, but in how we remember. The cracks in the foundation, however, the very success of ancient Egypt also seeded the seeds of its decline. As the Old Kingdom progressed, the centralized power of the pharaoh began to weaken. The ambitious construction projects drained resources, and the burden of taxation on the peasantry grew heavier. Dissent brewed among the lower classes, leading to social unrest. Additionally, climatic changes began to affect the Nile's flooding patterns. Droughts and poor harvests weakened the agricultural foundation that had supported Egypt for centuries. The once reliable floods that rejuvenated the land became increasingly irregular. This environmental stress tested the resilience of the civilization and strained the socio-economic fabric of society. The Middle Kingdom, a time of resurgence. In the midst of this turmoil, a new era emerged, the Middle Kingdom around 2050 BC. This period marked a resurgence in political stability and cultural achievement. The pharaohs of this time sought to restore the power of the state and reinvigorate the economy. They focused on irrigation projects and expanding trade networks, which not only bolstered agriculture but also strengthened Egypt's position in the region. Culturally, the Middle Kingdom produced significant literary works such as the Tale of Sinuhe, which reflected the values and ideals of Egyptian society. This period also saw advancements in art and architecture with the construction of new temples and monuments. The era of the Middle Kingdom represented a turning point, a chance for the civilization to learn from its past mistakes. The New Kingdom, the pinnacle of power. The New Kingdom, which began around 1550 BC, is often regarded as the height of ancient Egyptian civilization. This era witnessed the expansion of the Egyptian Empire, reaching into Nubia and the Levant. Pharaohs like Hatshepsut, Akhenaten, and Ramses II left indelible marks on history. Hatshepsut, one of the few female pharaohs, established trade networks that brought wealth and exotic goods to Egypt. Akhenaten revolutionized religion by promoting the worship of a single god, Aten, which disrupted traditional practices and led to significant cultural shifts. Ramses II, known as Ramses the Great, is celebrated for his military conquests and monumental